Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. Today we have a special episode. This is another one of these podcast collides, and this is a special one. I got with me right now the Pinnacle. Not the Pinnacle, vodka or whatever, not the whipped cream version. I have Dejuan Oneal with me from the illustrious podcast called GrownManlogic. It's about the second biggest thing that's coming out of the West Coast right now. So Dejuan, please.
West Coast. I mean, we East Coast, we West Coast, we Midwest. We have it all, man. I think that's a beautiful thing about GrownManlogic. You're getting four perspectives from like four different regions of the United States. So like it's a very valid and well-rounded opinion, or well-rounded discussion when you're dealing with GrownManlogic.
All right, now for the audience, we've already had Eric on from there. So let's get a little backstory on you, whatever you feel comfortable talking about. So let's hear about Dejuan Oneal.
So I'm from the greatest city in the world, Boston, Massachusetts. I see the look. Yeah, I'm from the greatest city in the world, Boston, Massachusetts, man. And I currently reside in Virginia Beach, Virginia, as a member of the United States military. So I'm active duty military as well. I am a professional wrestler, an author, spoken word artist. Yeah, man, I got my MBA from Northeastern University, and yeah, man, we're just kind of out here kicking it, man. And I just want to elevate the culture, man. Tell people to up their pressure. You know the motto.
All right, so hold on, let me get something straight. You're in the 757 right now?
I am right now.
So you in the 757. Now I'm originally from Virginia. Now that's one thing that we don't talk about. I'm from the 434. I'm from this place called Lynchburg, Virginia.
Shout out Lynchburg.
Yeah, no doubt. And I come over to Tidewater region. I'll tell you something crazy. I didn't know this. And then let me tell you how backwards I am. For some strange reason, I thought you were on the West Coast.
No. Kendra's on the West Coast.
Kendra's on the West Coast, right? And I know that Eric's up there in Cleveland right above me, but that's crazy. You right around the corner because, that's just off topic. I actually vacation out there at the beach out, not so much Newport or bad news, but out there at Virginia Beach. And then right up, I like to go up Chesapeake. I actually like Eastern Shore if you've been up there.
Oh, yeah. No, it's beautiful, especially around this time of the year.
Yeah.
That's where like the hidden beaches are that we don't tell the tourists about. Like,
yeah. And then on a sneak tip, I'll tell you this secret. And if you get a chance, I don't know if you've been as far as Ocean City yet, but take that trip to Ocean Maryland. Yes, I'll fly into Salisbury, or I'll drive all the way out there, and then I'll creep up to Delaware and go shop because it ain't no tax on nothing.
Oh, that's right on 13, man. So most people get caught in that beltway traffic, but you jump right into 13 and then jump on number 1. It takes you right in Delaware, man. We speak the same language, bro.
Okay, I feel you. Yeah. And that's where I love. And so you said East Coast thing. I feel you on that. And like I told you earlier, I was out Boston area and all around there, but I was there when it was cold. So it was a whole different story. Beautiful place out there.
Boston's beautiful when it's cold, man. Boston's beautiful in the fall. Boston's beautiful in the summer. We only started the country. You're welcome. And you know what I'm saying? Boston's beautiful any time of the year, man.
Well, and the only thing I'll say this is that I didn't realize, we don't, as a whole US, we don't clock Boston for its gang activity. Like y'all got some real Asian gang violence going on out there with these gangs, and I'm like, I'm out here, and I'm in West Virginia now, so like we're just a run through place. So everybody you come here, they got a different style. I'm an emulator. I'm gonna be like the Bostons when I'm up there. I'm gonna say you guys and stuff like that. I'm not gonna be like y'all, blah blah blah. But I noticed like we went to some nice places, and then when we got into Boston, you had to check yourself. It was like it wasn't like a Chicago feel, but it was like a Baltimore feel.
We legit get it in up there. But like, here's the thing about being gangster, right? The bet they say that the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist, right? So if that's true, the ideal of being a gangster is not to advertise it, but it's to get away with it. Right, the most gangster people are the people that got away with the crime. So like when you clock Boston, you don't clock it as like some street shit happening up there. So it's kind of just like, it happens up there. It goes down up there.
And that was the one thing I'll say this before I cut you off, or since I cut you off, is the same thing about Cleveland, where Eric's from. I mean, it's real carjacking. It's like pull up to the stoplight. You better be careful because you might get got in both places. And I was in the vicinity of that and Buffalo at the same time. All three of these places, and I'm getting this culture because I call it the New England clam chowder and stuff. I'm getting this culture up here once again because it always refreshes. Because with my job, I may not be in your area every year, but in a 5-year span, I'm all over the United States. And just that right there, But anyway, getting back on topic. So you're a podcaster. You're a professional wrestler. We'll get into that in this interview. You are multifaceted. You're on your way to be a media mogul. You just got to make time to be the mogul, And the crazy thing here is you have this podcast, GrownManlogic. It's 4 personalities that mesh, and you guys haven't met a conflict yet. And I'm the first person that capped you guys as a new addition. and I felt like you got in your feelings when I called you Ralph Travance.
Well, I just need an explanation. But the same way on the show, right? Like for those of y'all who've seen an episode of GrownManlogic, if something catches me, like I don't just let it pass. I do it for clarity, right? So when I hear something, I just need a clarification. It's not necessarily that I'm in my feelings, but I need that moment of explanation, right? So when you hit me with the Ralph Tresvant reference, and I was like, wait a minute, we're beefing. Until I get an explanation, we're beefing. because so a lot of people, and it's crazy that nobody has interviewed us as a crew, right? So you see us on Mondays, you see us on Thursdays, you see us do the private stock interviews on Sundays, which air. We just added another show to air on Wednesdays exclusive to YouTube called the VSOP Lounge.
Okay.
And the VSOP Lounge is heavily anchored by me. It's called Varied Superior Opinions and Perspectives, the Lounge, VSOP.
Okay.
And that's I guess that would be my version of a podcast. Because I'll get on there, it's about 5 to 10 minutes, and it's just more content, like to give people. And I have opinions that it may not necessarily affect the other people that come with this brand. And my opinions are based in facts and statistics. And I give people the option to rebut. You can talk to me in the comments. You can hit me on the email. You can wait till Monday. You can come find me on Instagram. Like, you know what I'm saying? But there's some stuff that definitely needs to be talked about that we're not having these conversations. And so it was kind of like, all 3 of my other co-hosts have podcasts, Eric with the Uncomfortable Convo, Carla with the She Blows It, and Kendra with Coffee with Kendra, which in itself needs no advertisement because she's fucking killing it right now.
Right.
But so I kind of felt like I needed to add my own, because on all of their platforms, they drive traffic to GrownManlogic, and so I look at it as they're doing me a favor. Right. And it's kind of like that's kind of how I look at it. I look at it as they're doing me a favor by lending their image and their likeness and their intellectual property to me while we're doing that. So if that's the case, I can at least shoulder my own load. So I added that show primarily by me. They're gonna make rants and stuff like that is gonna appear, but that the heavy lifting on the VSOP Lounge is definitely gonna be me.
Okay, now do you see where the Ralph Travance correlation comes in here? Because let me give it to you. We talking about the whole group. We got 2 different groups. Because you're from Boston. We got the Bobby Brown version, then we got the Johnny Gill version. But both them versions have Ralph in it, and we both know that Ralph carried everybody. He was the showman, and if you look at his actual net worth, he got more money than Bobby Brown. Even though Bobby Brown structurally, when we look at music sales and stuff like that, his career was planted a certain way for him. He had a certain level of success, and once his success ended, somebody told him the right thing, and he stepped away from it and just lived off of his greatest hits, which he's still doing to this day.
Yeah.
Right, because after he put that good album out in the 90s, he put one more out, but nobody talked about that. But the thing is, Ralph Travance kept continuously making music, and behind the scenes, just because he necessarily wasn't the guy that was always singing his songs, he was still out there writing. He had showmanship. Right. He knew his place. He knew that he had to fit different roles, and that's what you do inside your podcast because you're a wrestler. So you know the different kayfabe. We'll stay with kayfabe. You know how to stay in character.
Yeah, for sure.
For real.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so now y'all's podcast is growing. There was amazing competition that took place, and like I said, we won't politic on the issues that happened inside this championship, but Podcastagram, shout out to Pat. He integrated podcasts that normally wouldn't even touch each other with a 10-foot pole, and not in any disrespect, because inside our community, there's always subgenres, all kinds of ways that podcasts are separated. Right. But a phrase that was coined to me, and I had to look at it not from a racial standpoint, I had to look from it from a standpoint of a Black person and a white person told me this, that there is an urban and a suburban podcast. Because when I think of those two, I think black and white, you know, because that's how people want to stereotype it. But I looked at it from the perspective of everybody's in the working class together. We actually live in different areas. And where I come from, you know, I come from Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm from the suburbs. We have an urban area in Lynchburg, but I am from corn-fed, grass-eating cows. Man, I know what it's like to go sleep in the woods without a tent.
Yeah,
you know.
for sure.
And then there's other people from different areas. You're from the city. The city's a fast place. You know what it's like to sleep somewhere where there's always lights.
Yeah.
And you know, and that when it was explained to me like that, I was like, okay, I can go with this. And then I said, if this is a cheap way of saying black and white, you sold me for right now. But what is your feeling about this description of suburban and urban podcast?
I definitely agree. But I think that you know, to tie the whole thing together, what Pat did was a very beautiful thing. And if I understood him correctly, be on the lookout for like the final 16 to come on a different voting platform. If I understood him correctly, he was on a live with somebody else. But when that happened, so actually I didn't know that this was a thing. The whole like championship thing, I didn't know this was a thing. Obviously I'm a baby podcaster. My podcast is 9 weeks old.
Right.
Literally 9 weeks old. We just dropped episode number 9. I'm in the editing phase of that right now. So, and it's crazy because I didn't know it was a thing. So it actually gave me an opportunity to study. I mentioned in my intro that like I'm an MBA. I have a master's degree in marketing. So the first rule of marketing is to study the comps. Not necessarily that it's a competition, but like if you're moving into an area and you're going to buy a house, right? You want to know what other houses are selling for in that area, so you know if you're getting a fair price or not. So I sat back and kind of just watched. And as I began to dive in, because you know that like eventually I became heavily involved.
You were doing color commentary. You had your own show inside the championship.
Yeah, well, so I saw it as an opportunity. Because GrownManlogic wasn't invited to the dance, but I wanted to be in the next one. Right. And I didn't want to be on the outside of the window, like window shopping. Right. So it was kind of like, okay, well, cool. And Pat didn't even know that I was going to do the first live. I kind of just like announced it. It was like, hey, look, I'm going to go live and talk about this. I want to, because the podcast community was buzzing at that time. Well, my circle of the podcast community was buzzing at that time. And so I'm like, oh, well, fuck, if everybody's talking about it, this is an opportunity for those of y'all who don't know me, you're going to, and you're going to figure out like what it's about. So I didn't even tell Pat. I was like, I told him the day before. I was like, hey, I'm going to go live and discuss like who people got on the votes, because everybody was doing in their stories individually.
Yeah.
And nobody decided to be the glue to put it together. Right. You know, you had people like Distance Nerding and Irish Survival, right? They were putting it in their stories. Okay, who you got? Right. You know, why not talk about this? Let's make it a face-off. Let's do it. Let's build some drama. You know what I'm saying? And so I kind of just jumped in. But when I did that, I kind of didn't know the undertaking that I was doing, because I had to listen to everybody's podcast so I could talk intelligently about what was happening. You know what I'm saying? I kind of set myself up. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go live. And it was on Instagram. So now I'm accountable. I'm either accountable or a liar. Right. So I stayed up. I remember I stayed up for like 48 hours straight listening to podcasts.
With no meth.
With no meth. Was it? I mean, there might have been an 8 ball or 2, but there was no difference. Yeah, I stayed up for 48 hours straight listening to podcasts so I could talk intelligently about the live. And then the first one was dope, and like a lot of people tuned in to see what I was saying about them, and that actually sent people to GrownManlogic. You know what I'm saying? Because it was kind of like, hey, this guy is talking about us. He actually took the time to listen. Okay, we'll show him some love just off of, you know, professional courtesy. But sorry, that was a long way of answering your question. But listening to like everybody's, I listened to 64 podcasts, 3 episodes of each, and I would definitely say, yeah, God. Yeah. I mean, so the tournament. So the tournament was it was 64 podcasts. It started out 64, and so yeah, I listened to everybody's podcast, and it was like 3 episodes of each. not in a row. So like I would listen to the battles, right? So I would go listen to, Irish Survival and West Virginia Commonplace. I listened to both of your latest episodes. All right, cool. Now we'll go to the next battle. Two episodes, etc. Right. And once I got through all of the battles, I went back and did it again with with different episodes. And that one I kind of chose at random because your game may have elevated, in a span of, 2 seasons or what have you. So now I need something from season 1 so I can talk about your growth and stuff like that.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, that was a really dope experience, but there's definitely a difference. And it's a noticeable difference to people who listen to both types of podcasts. Because the subject matter is different between suburban and urban podcast.
And I'll say this, inside the urban podcast, there's a more of a jump with the Instagram live. Now, let me tell you a story about you and I. Our story's kind of crazy. I'm in the background over on my side of the fence. I do this thing called The List, and I put it out every 30 days. And I'm no authority on any podcast, but I do listen to quite a bit because when I travel, sometimes I travel by car, and man, I can drive. From West Virginia, I'll go that 12-hour drive straight to Massachusetts, and I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to a variety of things, whatever someone puts in my Instagram or whatever, or sends it however. So I'm hearing everybody's podcast. Well, Pat comes back to me. He's like, this young man is doing an analytic view on things, and he's like, let me get your opinion. So I said, okay. I said, let me get a few listens in here. And me, I cheat a little bit. I've got people that listen for me, and then I'll go in and I'll listen to sound bites of what they tell me to listen to. If you have an episode that's 30 minutes, let's say 7 minutes inside that episode somewhere, there's a gem somewhere. Everybody's episode has a gem, regardless of what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get the good points. Basically, I get the cliff notes on podcasts, and then I go in and listen. So he asked me a few times to give my results, and he would hit me up at like 5 o'clock in the morning or something crazy. And everybody knows that my schedule is whatever I do. So I just wake up and go as I please. So I woke up and I started giving you a little bit of, you started getting information from Pat through me. And that's how we connected. And then I ended up on one of y'all's shows one time. It was you and Grown Too Much Game, which a lot of respect out there for Too Much Game. Because y'all were going to Uncle Dolomite. Yeah, y'all, Uncle Dolomite, y'all was out there, y'all was going against each other. And that was a tough one. And I followed y'all's podcast because your podcast doesn't necessarily fit the same vein as mine, but the way that y'all carried it and how y'all did things, that was more in my lane than his. And later on listening, I like his podcast now because I got a chance, and I sit back, like when he did the little live this week, all of y'all, one thing I do want to say real quick, all of y'all, Cool Out Corner, whoever, y'all need to sit down and do a TV schedule so we can get this live thing straightened out, because everybody's putting out shows. I know that y'all do ads.
I saw you post that. We need to come up with a schedule. Yeah. Here's the thing. We're GrownManlogic. We initially started on Thursdays, right? Because there's nobody doing lives on Thursdays.
Right.
There was nobody doing lives. And ultimately, so for those of y'all that are going to hear this, if you missed the live on Thursday, that live gets converted into an actual podcast with an intro and, segments and stuff like that. And it's released the following Wednesday.
Okay.
So nobody, yes, you kind of double tap them. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like that I needed, I mean, as a wrestler, like, because you got some skeletons in the closet about pro wrestling yourself, young man.
That's a long time ago.
But yeah, I mean, you know that like it's all about the energy of the people. So like that's why I chose to go to that format, right? Versus instead of recording straight to Anchor, this, that, and the third. And I felt like that kind of like smoothed the path for GrownManlogic actually, because my personal page has 10,600 followers. That's based off of like wrestling, the book, spoken word, open mics, this, that, and the third. So that's why I launched a live from there up until we build up the GrownManlogic podcast page. Right. So and you never know who's going to drop in. So it was easier to just record it live, rip the audio, and then edit and upload. But that's where you get like the music, the segments and the dope segues and shit like that. So actually the people that listen to it the following Wednesday are in for more of a treat than the people who get it live. The people that get it live, their treat is you can interact with us live.
Right. And that's the one thing that I like about that. And I'm going to add that inside of the Urban Podcast, their whole package. Everyone I've come across, except for like maybe 3, do live shows. And that live show has a certain hypeness. It has a charisma. And I always go deep into charisma because not everybody's got charisma. And y'all, and you have the charisma out of your group. The other ones have a little pizzazz and stuff like that. But charisma is something that you're born with. If you're not taught it, you can't buy it. I mean, they could buy you and put you in place, but that's something, that's your podcasting element. If nobody's ever told you that, your charisma draws people in. Kendra comes in and she's kind of like I said, it's that new edition thing right there. It's that Bobby Brown, Johnny Gill, Ralph Trevance, and then Carlos Belbiv DeVoe. She's doing the thing, she got the poison, but it's just like all of that together makes New Edition. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what y'all do. And then your solo ventures, and with you stepping out with what you're doing now, like it has to make you feel really good inside to know like that y'all started a few weeks ago and now y'all launched. Y'all are like the top of the food chain. You may not think it, and you might not feel it because you just see your ecosystem as it is right now. But nah, like I've sat back and I've talked to people about your podcast, and it's another one on the suburban site called Bad Cancel.
I listen to them. They're really dope. Shout out to Bad Counsel.
Shout out to Bad Counsel. You two are a parallel, even though it's only 3 of them, and they have a female too. But and I ain't saying that in any disrespect. I apologize about that.
Well, I mean, so the female here's watch this from that study of like in those podcasts in the tournaments. I know that the female just recently joined within the last 6 months. But she's been a guest a few times. But you see what I'm saying? This is how in depth that I listen to go ahead.
But let me give you this comparison. So, like on the spectrum, like you two should have been matched up in some type of championship, and one day with y'all going to be matched up because, if we do those 2 categories, y'all 2 match up right there, like boom. They have a comedic factor. Y'all have comedy on there, but y'all are serious and y'all have comedy. So that's just where it differs. But in that group setting, when you put an episode of you guys stacked up an episode against them, that's a real challenge there. And the matchups were however they were set up, but it's like when you got all these podcasts together, like how you did this analytic work and listen to everybody, it was kind of amazing. Like I seen, like, to me, the dark horse was that Irish survival podcast, and that we're on your time, but it was something about that when I thought that one was going to sweep the whole thing.
Well, she's 13, bro. She's amazing.
Right.
She's amazing. She's 13. And if you never wanted to join the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts,
you made me want to join.
Listen to that podcast, man. And I feel like she's your scout leader. She's your cub master. You know what I'm saying? And if she's listening to, if she hears this, then she should definitely call her fans, her listeners, the Cubs. You know what I'm saying? She's the cub master, man, because and so she sent me to Google like a few times, right? Because as I was listening to this, the first thing I thought it was a voice effect on her voice, right? I thought it was an adult putting the kid's voice on, or maybe an adult was writing the script for like a child, or I mean that could be the case and we not know. It could be a right aspect there, but she sent me to Google to like verify some stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't really brag about or talk about what I do inside of, the United States Navy, but her survival, I'll just say, I know survival well. And her podcast is spot on.
Right. And it's just something about that. But now let's flip the script and get back over to you. So you're a professional wrestler. And the thing I like about these podcast calls, I can jump back and forth. And we're speaking on your pro wrestling. We're not talking about anybody else, just you. People who know me, they know me across Virginia and wherever. I got a little amateur background and a little professional, but whatever. But you are a full professional wrestler. Your size, you're what I wanted to be 10 years ago. I just couldn't keep the weightlifting up.
Don't do it. It's a trap. Don't do it.
So tell us about this pro wrestling real quick. How did you get into that?
So I've always loved pro wrestling ever since I saw, I think it was like WrestleMania 9 when Yokozuna and Hogan were battling for the title and Luger came out to make the save, or
was it the Bret Hart finish where Hogan came out on Bret Hart?
No, because it wasn't quite there. I remember Yokozuna.
Was it Yokozuna?
Okay, okay, no. So let me. Okay, you're right. I think it may have been. I think it was
Yokozuna beat Bret Hart for the belt, and then Hogan came out and
made the finish. Yeah, you're right. So I kind of watched it, and then they were still in that cartoony, over gimmicky area, right?
That Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, the Warrior. You know what I mean? And so you kind of what is this? All right, cool. Bet. And then I kind of stayed up, watched it, you know what I mean? And then they were selling the ICO Pro, and you can call for 99 cents per minute and shit. And so I would always ask my mom when I got good grades on my report cards hey, I want the WWF magazine, and I want to be able to call and talk to Shawn Michaels. I always wanted to talk to Shawn Michaels. I don't know why. I just always wanted to talk to Shawn Michaels. At first, I was mad at him because I saw him kick Jannetty and throw him through the barbershop window. And
I appreciated that.
Well, so at the time, I didn't understand, gimmick and storyline. I kind of just felt bad for Jannetty because it was like, how could you betray your friend like that? Why would you do that to him? Because at this time, I'm like 7, 8 years old. Yeah. And I had the action figures of the Rockers. Their first action figures, they were wearing
with
the purple and the white. Yeah, exactly. So, and I would put on like wrestling shows with my little action figures in my room. I do the color commentary, etc. It's almost like I was born to talk, right? So it was kind of like I was doing the color commentary, like, oh my God, I was emulating JR and shit. And then, so, fast forward, life happens. I graduate from Northeastern University. I have a major amount of student debt that's piling up. So I joined the military. I was lied to by a recruiter. And I ended up going enlisted instead of officer because the recruiter lied to me. He told me that I could do it later, but he was really just trying to fluff his numbers, whatever. I meet Eric in the military at my first duty station, actually.
Okay.
And he and I have been friends ever since then. That was 2008 that I actually joined the military. But I was a preschool teacher prior to that.
Okay, wow. With the same physique?
No. I was when I joined in 2008, I was about 185 pounds, and now the physique, I'm 260. I walk around at 260.
Whew.
I meet Eric, and then we form our friendship, and obviously the rest is history. We're back at GrownManlogic. So at 2000, I think it was like 2016, I was in a bar, like drunk as shit, like because the Patriots or something were playing, and I think they lost the game, and it was the playoffs. And anyways, just the owner of this wrestling school he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, hey man, you ever thought about being a pro wrestler? And I'm like, only every day of my life. And he's like, yo, come out of school. And I turned out to be like really good, probably because all of the reps that I got as a kid, playing wrestling outside on the mattress. But I turned out to be really good, man. And it really took off. And now I've been able to turn that into like a very lucrative business for myself.
So let me ask you, is there any plans in the future to go do a tryout and go somewhere like NXT or anything like that?
So I did in 2018, 2 years in the business, I did a Ring of Honor tryout.
Ooh.
And they gave me an 8 out of 10. The 2 marks that I had off was gear and polish. So I decided to work on that. They did a seminar the following year, which was 2019. And they told me I applied, and they told me it was too soon to look at me again. They wanted to see some more stuff. Okay, cool. And that turn, I deployed with Navy SEAL Team 2 to Africa at the end of 2019. Obviously COVID, and you know what I'm saying, things happen. So I made my in-ring. Actually, I made my in-ring date return. Made it back in February, but I'll be in the ring again in July 10th, starting to pick up a semi full-time schedule, and then we're gonna make a run to the top.
Okay.
I gave myself to the age of 42 to make a run at the top. And then
okay.
Because I feel like I joined late. I started wrestling. I was 28 years old when I started. But I take really good care of my body, and I still
obviously
I still look young in the face. You know what I'm saying? So that's still marketable. There's still marketability there. So I gave myself to about 42 to try and make a run at the top, and trying to figure out where it goes.
And do me a favor, while you're in Virginia, make that trip over to Roanoke, Virginia, in Christiansburg area, and meet Jimmy Valiant, and get in touch with Tony Atlas.
No, so I have photos with both of them.
Oh, snap.
I actually wrestled Jimmy Valiant. Yeah, I wrestled him at a place called Pure Pro Wrestling. Jimmy Love and those guys. Salute to them, man. And if you guys actually hear this, I'm willing to come back, but obviously my rates increased. But the yeah, man. So I wrestled Jimmy Valiant at Pure Pro Wrestling, and I thought that I was gonna break him because of what I'm saying,
How old?
like, yeah, how old he is, man. He's been doing this for so long. But even at that point, I learned so much in the ring with him that it was amazing. It was an amazing experience.
And the crazy thing on that is, and this ties in because you have to understand, audience, like we're talking about stuff and we got a little bit of a relation here. That's the guy that trained me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you got to think, being from Lynchburg, I'm over in that Roanoke region, the western. I'm in the central part of Virginia, but I'm over in the western part. And just that whole group. So that's amazing that you actually wrestled him. He's one of the guys that I'll say that him and William Regal are two of the most underrated wrestlers that actually train people around.
Regal's a beast, man. You remember Regal got in trouble because he out wrestled Goldberg and made him look bad on TV to other wrestlers.
Yeah.
Something
about Regal. Regal always had me going. Now let's get back into this podcast and stuff because we're going everywhere. we might have to do a wrestling podcast one evening. So you're starting out. You got 9 weeks in the game. Y'all are your crew. Y'all are really hype. Y'all are about like b-boys dancing around, doing your thing with everybody. Everybody's trying to get a hold of y'all guys. Since you've been in the business, you're an influencer, and obviously with your other endeavors that we'll go into in just a little bit, you influence people. You do this type of stuff. What has been the biggest mistake that you made at the beginning when you started podcasting?
The biggest is I underestimated the amount of work that it takes to grow a podcast. I underestimated the amount of nurturing that it actually takes to grow your baby. So with like wrestling, right? I spend countless hours training and countless hours in the gym, right? Like kind of perfecting a move or, move set or maybe a combination or something like that with spoken word before I go to an open mic, where I use open mics before I begin to record it. So when I go into the studio, I'm not wasting the engineer's time. I can knock it out in the 3 minutes that it takes. With writing a book, it's a stream of consciousness. So like I write it and then I can go back the next day and edit the chapter, right? But with podcasting, I figured that people were fans of mine, so they would just listen.
Right.
And people were fans of mine from other endeavors, so they would just listen. And I underestimated the marketing aspect of what actually needed to happen. I kind of figured, okay, we got a dynamic here, 4 different personalities. All right, cool. The closest mainstream comparison that I can draw to GrownManlogic would be like the Breakfast Club. Right. And I feel like we have a dynamic to meet them. We don't have the polish yet, in terms of like the radio and the media history and everything, but I feel like we have the dynamic to meet them. So I was expecting to be able to just jump on. I can send out one text message, hey, you guys check us out, and people would do it. But it wasn't. So my biggest mistake would be underestimation. But you see, I rectified that quickly.
Right. And like I said, and I hate to bring it always back to this podcast agreement championship, with that exposure there, it got y'all guys in my eyes. And I'm not saying like I'm Scrooge or someone that just sits on a hill. I mean, I live on the mountains, but I'm not one that sits on a hill and sees something and I'm like, whoa, these guys got potential. No, I look for people that have already broke through the glass ceiling, because people with potential can have that all day. Once you break that proverbial glass ceiling, y'all are already there. So the thing that I liked about you guys once I started doing research on y'all, like, because I sit back, I'll get the virtual assistant or somebody to go dig and find some stuff. You guys built a level of intimacy, which is the hardest thing inside of podcasting. And I talk so much about this in my podcast talks. Y'all built a level of intimacy with strangers, people outside your podcast. When I first saw you guys, all of you as a collective on a live, I listened and I was like, man, 2 of them are going to be all right. 2 of them going to be whack. One of them might be a star. The other 3 might be crap. And then you hear initially I heard the first three of you. I didn't hear Carla until later on. Really didn't know about her existence at that time until later on. Even though she was plugged in y'all's stuff, she wasn't around at the time. So you listen and you're like, man, this is like somebody I could hang out with. This is somebody, I might come out of retirement and put them on the ground. This is somebody that's just a little small jab. These are people that could come sing at my wedding after hours, and we could drink through the night and tell all kinds of folklores inside the mountains of West Virginia. And that is a plug for West Virginia.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, beautiful place. Just to pass through. Through.
No, so I wrestle there. Keith Crockett throws an event there like every so often.
Bluefield?
Say again?
Was it Bluefield or where?
I don't know. I know that there's a hotel there, right? And it's right next to like this gas station that serves breakfast. And like there's a gymnasium or a high school that he rents out, which is about 5 miles away from the hotel. And I don't know what the actual town is, and I apologize for that.
That's
I should
all
have had
good.
This loaded. Knowing that I was talking to you, I should have had that loaded. But he throws an event there, so I wrestle in West Virginia, and the drive from Virginia to West Virginia,
yeah, elevation,
bro. But like the views that you get, man. Like I almost drove off a mountain several times just trying to catch a picture of the mountain, the scenery in front of me, the horizon. It was beautiful. I love West Virginia. But go ahead, what's your point?
All right. So either way, like y'all got this level of intimacy, and y'all built this with strangers. So I'm technically a stranger to y'all at this time. And then Pat is not. He's not upselling nobody. He's saying these are the podcasts. Listen to them, check them out. Blah blah blah. And you start looking at y'all's Instagram presence, and your Instagram presence is not one that's threatening. Your presence on Instagram is like, hey, come on over and check us out. If you don't check us out, you're missing out. And that approach is the best marketing skill you can have. It's not the overzealousness like what I do. I'm overzealous. All my stuff is here, coming soon. Check it out. Come to me now. Snap into a Slim Jim. Y'all are like, you can get over here if you want to, but if you don't come, you're going to miss out. That's y'all's approach, and building that kind of intimacy without saying it or stating it. That's the best marketing skill inside of podcasting. Like I said, same thing with charisma. That's one thing that you can't teach people. You can show them all day long. So that's a credit to you guys.
Thank you.
Now, inside your group as a collective, what do you think is the strongest point that makes people gravitate to you guys?
Authenticity, I think. I feel like that you're going to have conversations, right? And you've seen a few of our lives. If things get too heated, like I'll stop the conversation and play like a random game of would you rather or
right.
But it's authenticity. So a little, and I'm giving away like the business plan here, but like, so the topics are all, I create the topics and that's all that the rest of them get. I'll put it in the group text. I'll be like, okay, Thursday, we're talking about this. Here's where my mind is, blah, 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 blah. But they won't know the questions that I'm going to ask, and they won't know where I'm attempting to steer the conversation. They won't know like anything. So it's kind of like, if you get triggered, you're triggered and it's on air. We're going to let you vent that out. If you disagree with this person, and also I know the rest of my crew, right? So Eric is the only person that I actually knew, with an intimate knowledge of, but because I study other people's work, when GrownManlogic became a thing, it was kind of like, okay, I went and I listened to, 10 episodes of Coffee with Kendra, like the podcast, not the live.
Yes.
And then I went and I listened to 7 or 8 episodes of She Blows It. And Eric was already my boy. So like, I kind of knew how he thought already, but this was a reconnect for me and Eric. So then I went and listened to 5 episodes of Uncomfortable Conversation to figure out what they were about. So now I kind of sit back at this massive chessboard of ego, intellect, and passion. Right. And so like, if I know that a question is going to trigger Eric, I'll let Kendra answer it first, and then I'll throw it to Eric.
Right.
And
that whoa factor.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'll throw it to him because he's already triggered and he's itching to answer the question. but he has a problem with the way that Kendra says things. So I know it's going to cause some friction. All right, cool. So now all I do is I'm looking for the sound bite there. So when I sit back, so honestly, as I'm running GrownManlogic, I'm listening to it as a fan. And a lot of the times the authenticity comes because I really want to know something. So like I know where I want the conversation to go, and I know what statistics and facts say. But again, these are four different people or three other people with three other experiences. So I want to know something. So when I ask the follow-up question, it's because I'm legit intrigued. And now that may spark a thought like down in the corner. You know what I'm saying? And so the authenticity is what makes people, I think, love the conversation, because I'm not gonna throw an episode up for the sake of throwing an episode up, right? All of these topics, they come from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? They come from somewhere. So I'll come up with the topic, I'll put it in the group chat and be like, yo, here's what I'm thinking. Boom, boom, boom. So start wrapping your mind around this. So then it's funny because Carla is like the most organized out of all of us, right? She takes notes, she does her research and everything. And then sometimes I'll fuck with her. Like I'll throw a wrench in the plan just because I want to see her I want to see her like off kilter.
Right. And no structure. You want to take that structure away.
Yeah, it's structured to me, but I don't want it structured for my co-host.
Okay. Now, there's a segment I do on my regular show, and I'm gonna go ahead and do it with you. I normally don't do it with people on Podcast Collide. It's about journalistic integrity. Growing up, I watched this show called 2020.
Okay.
And I watched other news outlets, but something about 2020, maybe just because ABC came in good because we had them little rabbit ears back in the day in the mountains.
Got 4 channels and everything.
Yeah, so ABC came in, and on some Friday nights I'd be chilling with my grandma. You know, we didn't have I wrestled, amateur wrestled as a little kid. So some Fridays we didn't have tournaments going into Saturday. So I go sit with her and I would watch this, and I liked Diane Sawyer. I like Barbara Walters. John Stossel was pretty cool, but he did the comedic portion, and I'm not very much of a comedian. My delivery comes off as a comedic sometimes to some people, but never the case. I'm dead serious about what I'm saying to people, and some people take that the wrong way. So I'm going to hit you with some questions because Diane Sawyer was very poignant to the point that she could pull certain answers out of people. But Barbara Walters, when it came time for Barbara Walters, that was that 10:38 or 10:40 to 11 o'clock. She hit you with some gems that just shut the game down. And even Oprah, in some of those instances, like when she did the Michael Jackson interview, it was that last 20 minutes inside interviews that these questions got real tight. So let me hit you with your Diane Sawyer questions first.
Okay.
Okay. You've told us about your ventures inside of your podcasting. You're doing a spoken word album, correct?
Yes.
So you have all these, you got your hands in every little thing. So when do you actually make time for yourself?
Rarely. Honestly, and this is something I've spoken like on record about. Like I need to get better at that. I'm actually going to be talking about it on Thursday. In the I Owe Me episode of GrownManlogic, where that's kind of what it's about. Like I spend so much of my energy because I have the energy now, right? So my philosophy on that is I'm young enough and I have the energy now to make this run, right? And if I can put the chips and stack the chips in place now, then the Pringles can won't be hard to bag up when I don't have the energy. And now I can just kind of, relax. So I do take time for myself. It usually comes in the form of like long drives or the gym early in the morning, or right after the gym, I'll sit in my car for like 10 minutes and just kind of, okay, the world's good. So rarely, very rarely, but it does happen. It happens enough to get by, but I do, that is something that I need to get better at.
Okay. Now we're going to get a little deeper. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. So inside of podcasting, how are you self-caring for yourself? Because the first question I asked you was on a certain level of how you're keeping yourself level, but we're talking about the actual self-care. How are you keeping a good mental focus inside podcasting? Because the thing is, you have to wrap your mind around a lot of things, and you don't have to necessarily be objective about everything you talk about, but how do you do that self-care to keep your mental straight? And we're not talking about working out at the gym. Like, what do you do to keep yourself mentally focused? I'm going to give you a quick example so you can think about your answer. For me, for instance, I record on a guerrilla schedule. My right now, just me and you talking today at June 15th, 10:21 p.m. I have recorded my show until next year. It's done. Anything I'm doing right now are bonus episodes inside what I'm doing. Everything's strategically planned out. So if I die, it'll come out posthumously, however it's going to come out. So the structure that I do is I have a lot of free time now, with my job and everything else. And obviously I don't work out or anything, but I drink a good thing of tea and other things, and I'm in other ventures. So I take a day like tomorrow, I'm just going to chill. I'm going to look over some insights and stuff like that. I'm going to go dig a little bit deeper on you and look at some different insights, look at some wrestling videos, see if I'm going to have to come out of retirement or not, or, whatever. So the way that I get my focus and everything straight is I just relax. I'll listen to y'all's podcast, or I will go check out another one of my older podcasts. I'll go back through. One thing that I like to do is I'll go back to the very beginning of my DM, and I'll see who I was dealing with then and who I'm not dealing with now. So I'll do this kind of stuff to keep myself mentally focused. I'm like, why did me and this person lose touch? Or did I switch up on them, or did they switch up on me, or did we just grow? So
for me, one of my ventures keeps me level on the other ones, right? So the past 2 weeks I've been throwing smoke to women, right? I have Jeremy from Life Unplugged and myself jumped on a live on Wednesday. I was back at the women again on Thursday. On Friday we're getting ready to go again and throw some more smoke. So I've been throwing smoke, right? So it's kind of like, because I'm agitated about something and I have opinion. I'm agitated at the lack of accountability, etc. Right? I mean, you heard it.
Yes.
So I speak freely, number one, and number two, like me writing, because I've written one book and now I'm in the process of writing another book. And that's kind of my reflective piece, because the second book I'm writing is a memoir that's going to bring you up to where I am now. And it talks about, from when I was struggling financially and didn't have a dime, either financially or emotionally, to offer the world. And I actually contemplated suicide, and it'll bring you up to where I am now, where I make moves like a boss, where I don't have time to fuck with petty stuff. You know what I'm saying? So but I take you on that journey, and I tell the stories of my life that impacted, right? So that's my reflective piece. Okay, I could have did this better. Okay, and that's where my growth comes from. But the spoken word tip is, I'm hurt about something. I'm angry about something. I'm really happy about something. Let's get this down. And I have a gift to construct words in a way that people enjoy. So it's kind of all of my ventures kind of feed and work as a coping mechanism to me as a whole. So it's crazy, because I didn't get into podcasting to make money. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I'm all about securing the bag, but that's not why I got into it. It was kind of this is just something extra. You know what I mean?
And something you're alluding from, and you just stated it with everything you're doing. It's a part of your self-care. Everything you said between the book, the spoken word. So you handle that. And one thing you did amazing in this podcast here that you probably didn't even realize, you just helped somebody else out. You gave somebody a plan. We didn't go over how to implement it, but you gave them a plan on how to handle stress, how to do things in a creative manner. So I want to thank you for that right there, no doubt, because you just sold them up on that one. Now, here goes the Barbara Walters question. All right, you're doing all these things. You're taking care of the world. And you told me earlier when we talked off the record that you didn't have 15 minutes free, but you told me outside of the gym you got 10 minutes free, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do got. See, I told you got 15 minutes somewhere. You have another 5 minutes later on down there. I just want to throw that in there. All right, and that's one of my things. We all have 15 minutes in life. That's it. And you got it. Just 15 minutes. That's it.
I'm convinced.
Yeah, just 15. So you're out here and you're doing everything. You're getting more successful. You've already been a success. Define for me what success is for you, and define for me what is failure. Because I tell you this real quick. To me, failure is a lesson. Failure is not a negative thing. Failure is something that I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to do something. I'm going to either revolve or evolve from that failure. So I might go in a circle around it, or I might actually change.
So let me answer that with let me kick this off, my answer to that with a story. Okay.
Okay.
So there was this lady, school teacher, and she was taking her children on a field trip to the Smithsonian Museum. Okay. And there was this little kid named Jamal, right? Jumped on a bus and, just, inner city Baltimore kid, they're going down to DC. So she was the art teacher and she gave them an index card prior to them going into the museum. And she said, okay, I want you to find a piece of art that speaks to you and write down what it says. Sounds simple enough, right? So they go in, they do the field trip, they complete it. And at the end, she's doing a head count and Jamal is missing. And she goes back in the museum. He must be in the museum. So when she finally catches up to him, he's standing and he's staring at the Andy Warhol. He's staring at the Andy Warhol picture. Andy Warhol has a picture inside of the Smithsonian Museum called Checkmate.
Okay.
Right. So she finds him and she looks at it with him and she's trying to understand what he's looking at. So she looks down and she's like, Jamal, does this painting speak to you? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, well, what does it say to you? And he's like, it's a lie. And she's like, what do you mean? And she's like, the piece, the painting, it's a lie. It's lying. It's not telling the truth. And she's like, well, what is it saying to you? And she's like, well, the painting is called Checkmate. But if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, the king still has another move. Now, Jamal wasn't Bobby Fischer, but he did know how to play chess.
Chess. Okay. Yeah. So
what I'm saying to you is that, to me, success is defined as the amount of options that you have to live your life.
Okay.
Right. I can't assign monetary value to it. I can't assign an emotional state to it because a state of being versus a moment are two different things. Right.
Correct.
So you may experience failures or setbacks in your life, but it does not make you a failure. Being a failure is a state of being. Right. So in other words, what I'm saying is the amount of options that I have to, okay, I can do this now. I don't have to do this now. I can tell you to fuck off. I can tell you I accept your offer. Right. That's what makes you a success. What makes you a failure to me is in that checkmate position when you don't have any other moves and you're forced to do something because of your circumstance. That's what makes you a failure versus making you a success.
So sustainability.
Yeah, for sure.
Sustainability. That's what I was driving. When you said all that, I found one word.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Now here goes your strong Barbara Walters question. You have so many endeavors going on. Okay. And you spoke about some of them candidly, some of them we haven't got into because I might have to do you like a second interview because I know you got to get sleep in a little bit anyway. So what does the future hold for you?
My future holds making sure that Dominic and Sophia and Saul are set up for success. That's the job of a father. That's the job of a man, is to smooth out the path for his children, right? So the future holds for me whatever it's going to take to make sure that when they're in college or when they're, I'm making moves now, right? They're 11, 8, and 1.
Oh, wow.
So, somebody might look at that and say, oh, you got time. But I don't, because now I need to make sure, because, obviously GrownManlogic falls under my LLC. The GrownManlogic falls under the Pinnacle Media Group, along with the wrestling, along with the books, along with everything, right? But out of that, Dominic has a 529 set up. There's a savings account set up for my other two, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
there's a Roth account set up for you.
I'll believe that. You know what I mean? So it just comes with like smoothing out life, man. But I think that what we didn't get into is like, I'm a certified life coach, right?
Okay, I told you, we're gonna dig into everything.
At the end of the day, it's all about setting my seeds up with the most amount of options. So, and that's whatever it takes to get there. But I also feel like that my brain is filled with a way to do things and a way to not do things. Some will be well received opinions and some won't be. But at the end of the day, you're going to hear them. You're either going to read them, you're going to hear them, or you're going to hear them.
Okay, I can go along with that. Now, here comes the hard part in this interview. You have a Superman deal with you. You got so many things you're doing. So, in a minute, I need you to tell everybody what you are. You've got so many titles. Don't sell us, but tell us about everything that you are. You're a certified life coach. How'd that come about?
I did like a couple of motivational speaking gigs, prior to back in Boston at 12 Baptist Church. Shout out to 12 Baptist Church. I was in training to become like a youth minister. Prior to like the Navy and the cursing and the tattoos and the alcohol. But it did like that brought me in a relationship like that were like close to God. So like me and God are still like this, regardless of like,
what happens. Yes.
No, not of what happens. Like, because I'm not always going to act in a Christian manner, but regardless of what people may think about how I'm acting, God and I are like this.
Right.
So, poet, author, spoken word, poet, author, wrestler, life coach, sailor, father, husband, man, grown ass man. You asked for my acronym, grown ass man.
Okay. So we got you all in a nutshell there. One thing I didn't hear is a video gamer. That's good.
I play. So I own a video game. I don't have time to play it.
Right, because your life, you're busy with everything you got going on. I was surprised you had time because we spent a long time in this interview. So one thing that I do in these is I give everybody a testament of who they are or what I believe you are.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to start off here. The pinnacle.
Do I need to pour? Do I need to pour another drink? Hold on.
Yeah, get you a drink real quick. I'm
gonna take you with me.
All right. So here we go. Let me get my drink real quick. Woo! Now, the pinnacle. You're more than a pinnacle. Let's say this. You kind of remind me of what was his name? He was one of my favorite wrestlers. You kind of remind me of Bret Hart a little bit. Bret Hart had a heart of gold. Real structured, a real sound person, and getting to know you just through this podcast and just seeing what you do and how you speak. It's a credit to whoever raised you.
Oh man.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you use the word polish, but I call it integrity. It's a deeper level that you have that most people don't. And inside your collective, you all have a great group, but inside of you though, here's the thing. You're out here, you're listening to other people's podcasts. You're out here, you're going to step in above and beyond yourself to help your next man. And we don't congratulate that. We don't talk about that inside of any community as men, women, binary, non-binary. We don't talk about that. So thank you there for doing that. Another thing is that influence. The influence that you have is the stuff that you don't hear about. Two podcasters have come to me. They started listening to what you say, and they say that they like the aspects, the things that you talk about. They like how sincere and how you use the word authentic, but we will say real. That realness can't be taught, can't be bought. And I put that on about 10 things. Certain things that can't be taught or bought, you're just born with them. So once again, being born with that, that's another part of your influence on life. The next thing, the way that you're very intricate in how you're doing everything that you're doing, be it the spoken word to everything else, you're trying to spread yourself so much that it's amazing, because when you're spreading yourself like that, there's people out here that you will never meet, that will never talk to you, but they will listen to you. They will see you. They will hear you twice, like you said earlier. And those things right there, for you to do that into, I'm not saying in a careless manner, but in a carefree manner, for you to do that for the world, that's amazing. That's something that's commendable, because not a lot of people are going to do that. I'm going to get out here. I'm going to speak a few words. I'm going to throw a few gems out there, but I'm going to turn it off at some point. I got to turn off time. My phone, I don't even get notifications from Instagram. I have a certain time that I turn things off, but you don't turn things off. You're there. You're diligent. You're doing these things. You're bettering all communities. And I'm guilty of one thing. I always look at everybody's community. I don't always I don't try to segregate any community.
Mm.
And that's one thing I like about you, because you're looking at all communities when you're doing things. And, you know, we're all tied into one thing. And I'm not very political when it comes to racism or anything like that, but you tie everybody into what you're saying. And 9 times out of 10, be it black, white, whoever, when we're in our sections or wherever we are, we usually just tie in our own race. And you do not do that. You tie everybody in. You have certain topics that may be themed, but it's so hard to get someone to be so clear. That's an amazing talent you have. And that's a talent, because you have to learn that from somewhere. You've seen something somewhere and you pick that up. And not everybody has that. And that's the difference. And I'm telling you this because I've been in the game for a long time. That's the difference between what Jay-Z said, a businessman and a businessman.
Mm.
Okay? You are a business. You have everything in a nutshell. You will make it to wherever you decide to go. And you won't stop there. Your game plan in life, that's amazing. That's something that if you took time in your next podcast and you title it My Thoughts on Life, you could take that My Thoughts on Life, just you, a solo podcast, your thoughts on life, and you could change the man down the road. You have that kind of power. You got the same, I call it that Michael Jackson factor, because that was my artist. Michael Jackson changed people. We don't look at the bad. We're just talking about the good.
Yeah.
You got that Michael Jackson woe to you.
Oh, man.
In that glow. Okay.
That's humbling, man. Thank you so much.
And that's one of those things, like I tell people, you know, it's certain entities in the world. But when you have that, and you're the type of person that knows the responsibility that goes with that, you have fun. Nobody takes that away from you, you know. But all that stuff inside a bubble and inside that integrity make you a great person. And that's your testament. Okay.
Thank you so much, man. That's humbling. I just feel like, honestly, like I said, I'm a Christian, man. And I think that, God mixed up whatever he mixed up and he put it in my brain. Right. So as I discover it, for me to not use it is almost being sinful. Like, and like, I get it. Not everybody, like, I'm not sure, you know, what the faith base is for your listeners or anything like that. I'm talking about.
Hold on for a second. Romans 3 verse 23, for all have sinned, they come short of the glory of God.
Boom. Yeah, I just feel like, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like that for God to bless me with the ability to do, and for me to not do is sinful. So I just really, honestly, man, I'm striving for like a better world, right? Like I don't deny that there are problems, right?
Right.
There are problems for people that look like me, for people that dress like me, that maybe talk like me. But at the end of the day, not all people are like that. And the good heavily outweigh the bad. And I'm just a person, I refuse to lose faith in humanity. And I've also been a person where I grew up in the hood. I had opportunities in school, right, where I had more opportunities than probably the people next to me, but it doesn't mean that the information is not there. And if I can get here, why can't you get there? And if I can help you get there, I'm going to do that, because that's the Christian thing to do.
Right. And the thing that I like is, you know, we all have disparities within all communities. And I like how you guys as a whole, your group, y'all talk about serious topics and y'all have a funny filter, and that balance, man, that's what makes y'all guys amazing. That's what makes you amazing. So to cap this off, because we got this is a long episode. I'm gonna have to give you a Thursday spot now for this episode. And fans know what the Thursday episode means. That Saturday episodes are always cool. That's where I do my controversial sales episodes. I have series inside my podcast. I got like 6 different series that go on. So in the Thursday episode, that's like the main drop. So, you know, main event, we changing your name. Your title needs to be main event. You need to change your Instagram tag, main event.
Ooh.
Main event. Put it between your name though. Because you put the main event between there, it's gonna be tougher than the pinnacle. Dejuan, the main event Oneal.
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to go trademark that, and then I'm gonna have to come through with the, I got the crickets.
Okay. Collect some royalties. Send me a cease and desist unless you talking about these kickbacks.
All right. So once again, I want to thank you, Dejuan, for coming on West Virginia Commonplace Podcast Collide. That's then turned into a realization. This has turned into a real deep episode. I'm going to have to have you back on for some more topics because we do things in panels and different things like that. My structure is this recording thing. It's not live, but we do 4 panel structures and different things with people. So I'll definitely have to have you come in, especially have you come in on the love series when we talk about agape and different types of things like that. It's been a pleasure. So here's the thing I need you to do real quick. And this is the greatest thing about podcasts. We have shameless plugs. It's time to get on here and tell everybody where they can meet you on social media.
Okay, social media. Instagram, Dejuan Oneal 1. Dejuan, Dejuan Oneal, the number 1 on Instagram. Also, GrownManlogic Podcast on Instagram. On Twitter, GrownManlogic Podcast. YouTube, GrownManlogic Podcast. Also, there's a vlog on YouTube called Becoming Second to None, where I talk about the road stories and behind the scenes stuff of like professional wrestling. The book Dear Dominic is available on Amazon as we speak. June 25th, Apple Music and Spotify and wherever you get your music will be hosting my initial spoken word extended play or EP known as the Premonition. It's 7 poems to warm you up for the album release in October. And come August, Amazon will be hosting my second book, GrownManlogic: The Art of Applying Pressure. Where I was talking about some of the stuff that I was talking about on here tonight. Every Monday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am live on Instagram. We are live on Instagram. GrownManlogic Podcast. So if you miss those things, we do like a lot of fun stuff, giveaways, open emails, things of that nature. Also, my personal Twitter, Dejuan Oneal 22N. 22N stands for second to none. So Dejuan Oneal 22N on Twitter as well. And on Facebook, Dejuan Oneal or GrownManlogic.
No Tumblr, no Snapchat, no.
I'm not as active on Snap as I'm also on TikTok. We're on TikTok.
On TikTok, okay.
On TikTok. Yeah, we got some funny stuff coming down the line for to kind of drive that audience over to the podcast as well. But I'm not really. I have a Snapchat, but I'm not really active, so I don't really want to send people there because I don't really use it. They'll be kind of disappointed. I follow this guy, and now I'm pressured to put stuff on Snap.
Okay, and I thank you for all that. And then the last bit of this plug that you forgot to do, and I hope your crew don't kick you out. You got to plug your crew too.
Well, you asked me where to find me,
right? But you got to you got to plug them at the end too.
Yes. So the GrownManlogic crew consists of the 3 people in podcasting that I believe are smarter than I am, and that's what makes GrownManlogic successful. If I'm the dumbest person in the room, you got a pretty good room. So, Carla can be found at @SheBlowsIt_pod. That's SheBlowsIt_pod. Eric can be found at The Uncomfortable Convo, or that one guy. That's UKNO, that the number 1 guy. And of course, Coffee with Kendra can be found at Coffee with Kendra.
And I want to thank you once again for that, and thank you for this amazing interview. Definitely gonna have
Thanks
to have
for having
you back
me,
on.
man.
Oh yeah, always. It was a pleasure. I mean, it's turned into a full grown episode at the end. Because usually, I'll be honest, these plugs only do we usually do 15-30 minutes on them, and then everybody's usually done because it's just straight in. It's about like making music. We come in, do it, then we're out. But this thing went everywhere. So definitely appreciate that. And then what else was it? It was something else I was going to say to you. Keep doing those amazing lives. Keep people integrated. And the challenge to you now is this. You've seen someone start a championship. Podcast. You AR podcast because you listen to them for 48 hours. So the next step for you is you need to build the next championship.
Well, so
hold on. Whoa. You're an authority. You're an authority on A&R on podcasts. You sat there and listened to them. You critiqued them. You brought guests in. So there's nothing stopping you from doing that. Now let me go ahead and get the excuse that I feel like you're about to give me.
No, there's no excuse. So behind the scenes, Pat and I were already working on the next tournament. Like so I kind of bullied my way into this one.
Right.
And we were working on the next one where it was going to be, I don't want to give away the concept just in case it comes to fruition, right? But we were working on it where GrownManlogic was going to host the tournament, and Pat and Podcastagram was going to sponsor it.
Okay.
Before everything went down. So like I said, man, if we'll revisit it in the future, but there's some kinks that we got to work out so that nobody has a complaint and can get their undies in a bind. But once we work that out, I think because it's Pat's baby, I wouldn't want to do it without his involvement some kind of way. But I think stay tuned. Stay tuned.
And also another thing that I need you all to think about, and this could be you, Cool Out Corner, or anybody, we need a versus battle for these podcasts for real. Because listen to why I say this. A versus battle twice a month. Let's not do 4 weeks of this, but 2 weeks of versus podcast. The podcast, everything is voted on to get your podcast in there. We have to work out the voting system, because that's the thing that we got wrong right now on Instagram. Algorithm and bots have destroyed voting, and I will say that. And I'll talk to you behind the scenes about the voting, because I know somewhere that they can vote and it's just sealed. So you all should start a versus podcast type deal, and the way that would work is you would do it over 2 weeks. And the logic is if you did it the first week, you'd say GrownManlogic, and I'm going to use Bad Cancel, right? And you give a list of certain episodes. People go back and listen to them. So they got a whole week to listen after you announce it. So like if you announce it on a Monday, they would have a 2 week span, give them 14 days or so to listen to episodes and be like, hey, I heard this gem, and then come back and vote. Because when you do that, you're giving people... You're moving numbers, and this is where the marketing thing comes in. And this is just something I'm sliding to you.
No, this is my listening face.
Yeah. This is, and we're doing this just in the recording. See, this is crazy, and I'm not going to edit it out or nothing. But you do that so your listener base gets a little bit eclectic, eccentric. Theirs gets eclectic, eccentric, and people are listening to your podcast and finding your gems. Because we put out great episodes. Everybody puts out great episodes, but sometimes you got some episodes that are just fire. And then you got some.
What if we did it like this? We have a representative from the podcast, right? Like, but a member not involved in the podcast, right?
Right.
So kind of like music for the love of music or something like that. They're doing like a battle, right? So and they're pulling out hits, right? But the artists aren't there representing, right? So you say we get like Dale P or Cool Out to represent a different podcast other than theirs.
Yeah.
Okay, your job is to prepare 10 bars, 10 gems from that podcast. And then we just weigh the gems. Okay, gem number 1 versus gem number 1. Who wins? Gem number 2 versus gem number 2. Who wins? Oh my God. Hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more. So once again, everybody, thank you for getting me on here with West Virginia Uncommonplace and going with Dejuan Oneal from GrownManlogic, and one day he'll have his own podcast when he takes it 10 minutes and makes one, which he will. So once again, I want to thank you and shout out to everyone. And
put that in the universe, man.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll close with this. I want to thank everybody that's involved in the podcasting community, no matter what you do, from people that do the show notes to the dude that edits episodes for free on Reddit. I want to thank you guys and there is a guy that will edit your episodes for free just for clout. I'll have to introduce you to him later. But anyway, just that, thank you guys inside the community, because it's a crazy community. We do have beef in the street sometimes, and it gets handled outside of the podcast, but still the way that this community thrives and strives to keep everyone together and the way that things are being done now, it's amazing. 6 months ago, it was not like this in the independent podcast community on our regional level. On our national level now, it's everybody's with everybody. So I want to thank you guys, and I'm signing off.